It happened the day after Christmas. My 17-year-old son walked into the room, eyes fixed on me, and asked with complete sincerity if I would replace the brand new gaming chair he'd just smashed in a fit of rage. The same chair we'd saved for. The one we'd wrapped up and placed under the tree because I thought, just maybe, he'd earned it. In that moment, something inside me snapped. Not in anger, not in sadness, but in disbelief, so sharp it came out as laughter. And once it started, I couldn't stop. The sound filled the air, loud, unfiltered, almost gasping for breath. He kept talking, trying to explain how it would only be fair for me to replace it. And I just kept laughing. But to understand how we got here, you have to know the history. My son has anger issues, real ones. We've been in therapy for months, and the trigger, more often than not, has been the same. Online multiplayer shooters. Fast-paced competitive games where tempers flare and insults fly. For the past few months, though, he'd been holding it together. I saw him work hard in therapy. I saw him try to walk away from tense situations. I wanted to believe in his progress. So this Christmas, I took a chance. I thought maybe a high-quality gaming chair would not only make him comfortable, but also be a gesture of trust, a sign that I believed in the work he was doing. But the very next day, I heard it. The shouts from his room. The tone in his voice that told me we were heading toward the edge again. He'd had a bad game. He was convinced other players were taunting him. His patience frayed. His voice rose into that familiar storm. And then, the crash. Wood and metal colliding with the floor. When I stepped in, the back of the chair was broken clean off. We talked. Calmly at first. I told him multiplayer games were off the table until his therapist felt he was ready again. We discussed coping mechanisms, ways to channel frustration. We'd been here before, so it wasn't a new conversation, but I made it clear. This was unacceptable. There would be consequences. I thought that was the end of it. Hours later, he appeared in the doorway. His voice was steady, almost casual. He said he really liked the chair, that it was a gift, that replacing it would only be fair. The frustration, the disbelief, the absurdity, it all collided inside me. And before I could stop myself, I burst out laughing. Not a chuckle, not a polite smile. A full-blown, can't breathe, tears in my eyes laugh. He kept talking, trying to plead his case. And the more he spoke, the harder I laughed. I asked him, still laughing, how it was fair for me to replace something I paid for that he broke in anger. His face darkened. My laughter only made him angrier. I tried to walk away, to get a grip. But he followed me, still insisting, still saying things like, "But I need a chair," and "What am I supposed to do now?" Each time, the laughter came back, almost against my will. I tried to explain that I wasn't laughing at his feelings. I was laughing at the sheer absurdity of the situation, that a nearly grown man would expect his parent to replace an expensive gift he'd destroyed less than 24 hours after receiving it. But the damage was done. He was furious, hurt. And I stood there, unable to rewind the moment. Later, when I was alone, I wondered if it had been a kind of stress break. I've never reacted like that before. Never been caught in that spiral of hysterical laughter. I know this is a serious issue for him. I know we've been working hard as a family to help him manage it. And yet, part of me still believes anyone would have laughed. In the days since, he stayed cold toward me. I've stayed firm, no replacement. The lesson has to stand, but the question lingers in my mind, echoing louder than the sound of my own laughter that day. So, am I the asshole? Here's what happened next in the court of public opinion. Some people said I was absolutely right, that his request was entitled ridiculous, and that replacing the chair would only teach him he could act without consequences. Others said I crossed a line. That laughing in the face of someone, especially a teenager already in therapy for anger, was cruel. That my reaction might have humiliated him, cutting deeper than I intended. A few called it a stress response. They understood how the absurdity could trigger uncontrollable laughter, even in a serious moment. But they still urged caution. Moments like these can leave scars, even if the intention wasn't to hurt. Many agreed on one thing: I shouldn't replace the chair. If he truly wants another, he can earn it himself. Through chores, through a part-time job, through understanding the value of what he has. Some even suggested an inexpensive folding chair as a placeholder, a physical reminder of the cost of losing control. Others asked why I'd let him play those games at all, knowing they were his trigger. A few questioned whether buying the chair was setting him up for failure. And there were voices, quieter but still present, who said the bigger issue wasn't the chair or the games, but the deeper patterns underneath. That both of us, in our own ways, are learning how to handle high emotion without letting it run the show. The responses weren't all kind, but they were honest, and maybe that's what I needed. So here I am, left with the image of my son, standing in the doorway, asking for what he thought was fair. Left with the sound of my own laughter, sharp and unyielding. Left wondering if I was teaching a lesson or just protecting myself from the absurdity of the moment. He still doesn't have a new chair. He still hasn't played multiplayer games since. We still go to therapy, and maybe one day we'll talk about this moment without anger or defensiveness. But until then, the question hangs in the air. So, am I the asshole? There's a fine line between holding a boundary and breaking someone down. In this story, that line was laughter. Unexpected, uncontrollable, and maybe, in its own way, revealing. We all hit our limits. Sometimes, the absurdity of a moment crashes against the weight of responsibility, and we react in ways we didn't plan. Laughter, like anger, can be a release valve, but both can also wound if they land the wrong way. What stands out here isn't just the broken chair. It's the collision between two human flaws: his inability to control his temper, my inability to control my laughter, and how those flaws fed each other. In American culture, we talk a lot about teaching kids responsibility, about letting consequences play out. And yes, consequences matter, but so does the way we deliver them. If you've ever been in that moment, holding in a reaction you know might sting, you understand how hard it is. And if you've ever been on the receiving end of laughter when you were serious, you know how deep it can cut. So I'll leave you with this. When absurdity meets frustration, how do you respond? Do you let the moment take you over, or do you step back and guide it? And if you were in this parent's shoes, would you have replaced the chair or laughed too? Your thoughts might be the next chapter in this story.